Hey, what's up everyone? This is Snackbox, and guys, in this video we are going to talk about the best Trunda build for Hydra, how to maximize her damage, what sets to use, so let's jump right into it. So before we go into the build, let me show you my score for this week. It's actually my personal best. I got 2.1, almost 2.2 billion damage on the brutal difficulty. Now I know for some players these are rookie numbers, but for me that's the personal best. That's the best I can do with Trunda. So this is the Trunda build that I used in this run, and this combination of sets is the best you can do on your Trunda. So we have 3 sets of Zeal, then we have 2 pieces of Merciless and the Blood Shield accessory. The reason for the Blood Shield accessory is that I want to protect her HP. I want to have her at 100% HP so she gets that extra damage from the Zeal set, right? So we have 3 Zeal sets, and for every 25% HP this champion has, Trunda will get an additional 3% damage, and that is quite a lot in Hydra. So basically with 3 Zeal sets we will get an additional 36% more damage from her attacks, and that is absolutely amazing. That is crazy damage if you consider, you know, her scaling and how she scales damage with the A2 on decapitated heads. That's a lot of damage. Then I have Merciless accessories in there because I get additional 10% attack and 15% crit damage. That's just for min-maxing, right? And the Blood Shield accessory, so every time she would attack, she puts shield on her and I can heal her up to 100%, maximize the extra damage from the Zeal sets, but also protect her from hits from the Hydra so she doesn't drop below 100% HP. So this is basically the best combination of sets you can use on Trunda to maximize her damage. And as you might have noticed, we don't have Ignore Defense in here, and that's simply because it doesn't matter. The amount of extra damage you get from the Zeal set outshines the Ignore Defense of a Merciless, Savage or whatever set. Let's actually take a look at the stats, and once again, this is not a crazy build or whatsoever, this is just the best gear I have. I know there are a lot of people out there that have a 6-star blessing on Trunda, and then her damage will be even more insane because of a 6-star Nature's Wrath and the additional crit damage and all that good stuff that you get from a blessing. So yeah, I have a 3-star Nature's Wrath blessing, and all I get from that is basically the 750 attack, which is good, but from a 4-star blessing you already get 38% more crit damage, which would also bring me above 400% crit damage. And now if I add the Hydra area bonuses, well, I'm way over 400% crit damage, so a higher blessing would boost my damage immediately. And also my crit damage is so high because the Zeal set doesn't only give extra damage for every 25% HP, it also gives you 20% more crit damage. So we have a total of 60% more crit damage just from the Zeal sets. I totally forgot about that. But yeah, so these are basically the stats. 8.4k attack almost, 176 speed. This is a little bit slow, to be honest. Even with Hydra bonuses, I can actually get this up a little bit, but normally I would, you know, go for like 200 speed. That's what I would aim for, even for Nightmare. Now this speed is definitely too slow for Nightmare. She just doesn't take a turn too often, so I have to go, you know, 1 difficulty down, but there it works quite well. So 192 speed is what she has in the Hydra battles, 104% crit rate. Of course, you want that 100% crit rate unless you run her with somebody that does buff crit rates. Then you could go lower and push other stats. But in my comp that I'm using, I don't have a crit rate buff, so I have to hit the 100% crit rate. Then I'm sitting at 389% crit damage. Pretty solid so far. I wish I could go a little bit higher with the speed and crit damage and maybe the attack as well at some point, but overall I'm pretty satisfied with this build. Then the accuracy, which is also a little bit important because of the blessing that I'm using on her, which is Nature's Wrath. So I need to place debuffs, which is in her case the HP burn, a couple of times to stack up the damage, and for that I need a reasonable amount of accuracy. I don't need to place it every time I use her A3. I also don't want it to get resisted all the time. And then we have 20% ignore defense from the area bonuses, and that's basically why we don't need ignore defense anymore. We got the 20%. Most of the time we have the decreased defense debuff from a champion on a Hydra head, so that's already enough ignoring of defense. Now if we stack up more extra damage, Trunda will deal so much more damage than if we would ignore additional defense. That's why the Zeal set is just way better. So as a relic, I have the Scroll of the Unseen. That's because I'm using Duchess in my Trunda comp. I get additional attack and crit damage here. You can also use the Irethi Coronet on her. That would also give her additional damage. It works basically the same, just that this relic here has a synergy with Whale or Perfect Whale, and I have it up all the time. And if you level it up, you will get 4% more damage for each time a champion takes a turn while the wearer is under Perfect Whale. And because my Trunda is a little bit slow and every other champion is actually pretty fast, I need to take at least 8 turns with other champions, and that's fairly easy to do. So my champions will definitely outlap Trunda, and then the extra damage from this relic will be stacked up as soon as she gets a turn. Now for gemstones, I'm using the destructive accuracy, where the wearer ignores 5% of the target's resistance when placing bomb, poison and HP burn debuffs. And then I have this one where the wearer deals 5% more damage to enemies with full HP. And this one is actually also not bad. Sometimes you can hit a head that doesn't have taken damage yet, so the head will be at 100% HP and you can deal 5% more damage, which is a lot for Trunda. Then the 5% that ignores resistance when placing HP burns is just here because I don't have a better one. But if I would have another foe killer, I would definitely use 2 of these. And then she's of course completely booked. I mean, that's not a question. But the blessing that I'm using is Nature's Wrath, of course, because of the stacking damage here. Every time she applies a debuff, her damage stacks up by 2%. So I need to place 4 HP burns in total to get that maximum amount of 8% extra damage. If you have a higher blessing, it gets even better, right? With a 15% at 5-star blessing, with 30% at 6-star, and you will get 5% for each debuff you're placing on a 6-star blessing. So you basically have to place 6 debuffs and then you will have the additional 30% damage. So yeah, a lot of extra damage going on here. This is very, very important. And then for the Masteries, I have Heart of Glory because I always want her to be at full HP because of the Zeal set, so that's an additional 5% more damage. Now that I'm looking at it, maybe I could go with Ruthless Ambush, but I think Single Out is also not that bad. I don't know, maybe I have to test it and try Ruthless Ambush. Then I have Bring It Down, which increases the damage inflicted by 6% when attacking targets with higher max HP, and the Hydra definitely does have higher max HP than Trunda. And of course, Stoked to Fury. This increases the damage inflicted by 4% for each debuff on this champion, and it stacks up to 12%. And I'm using this because I have Gurptuk in my team. And Gurptuk basically poisons your own team, increases the damage with his passive already, and this mastery has very, very nice synergy with his passive and his kit. And then of course Helm Smasher, which gives us an additional 25% ignore defense. I mean, we have a 50% chance that this procs, but still, if it procs, you will hit way harder. So that is also very amazing. and then I just went for, you know, additional stats here from the Lore of Steel and some additional accuracy. So yeah guys, overall I'm very happy with this build. I would love to have a 6-star blessing, right? That would boost my damage even further. It would give her, you know, additional speed, would make it easier for me to build her, give her more crit damage, more accuracy, and just overall more stats, more damage, and then she would be an absolute powerhouse. I mean, she already is one, but then even more. I was using a Savage set before that, then I tried the Merciless set, but nothing came close to this combination of 3 sets of Zeal, 2 pieces of Merciless, and a Blood Shield accessory. Now, if you don't have you know, 6 pieces of Zeal that you could use on Trunda, you could definitely, you know, do something like a 6-piece Merciless set and then a 2-piece Zeal or a 4-piece Zeal with 4-piece Merciless, a Savage set with 2 pieces of Zeal, a Lethal set with 2 pieces of Zeal. So it doesn't really matter as long as you can squeeze in that Zeal set. You will definitely deal more damage, but you shouldn't sacrifice too many stats by doing so. Definitely keep that in mind when you plan on rebuilding your Trunda. So yeah, here I will show you the hardest hit I did so far. I never hit for more damage than with this one right here. So basically all I'm doing is trying to keep Trunda at 100% HP. As you can see, she has a massive shield, and that's from her damage, right, from the Blood Shield accessory. That protects her HP, and then I can heal her up with Gurptuk and keep her at 100% HP. But also I want to maintain the poisons on Trunda, because for every poison she will deal additional damage. Then I try to keep as many hexes up from Yumeko, because that will also deal additional damage. And then of course trying to get as many protected buffs as I can. I have my Duchess in a protection set, I have my Lydia in a feral set, and as you can see here on this decapitated head right here, I have the block buffs and the poison sensitivity from Lydia, and I have my Lydia in a 9-piece feral set, so for every debuff she's placing, Trunda will deal an additional 5% more damage. And if I can get another 2 or 3 debuffs up with Lydia, I would definitely try to do so and maximize the damage Trunda does. Sometimes I have the decreased defense, I have the weaken, I have the block buffs, I have the poison sensitivity, and a brimstone from Lydia. So that's 5 debuffs in total, which means additional 25% more damage. So that's also something which is very important here. And yeah, so I'm trying to place as many hex debuffs as possible because, you know, of the shared damage. Then I'm placing a decreased defense and the weaken. And yeah, there we go, from 848 million to almost 1 billion and 40 million, so almost 200 million damage just with one Trunda A2. That's basically the hardest I ever hit Hydra with my Trunda. And as you can see, the shield is just completely stacked, right? Like there's no way the Hydra deals any damage to, you know, get rid of the shield. The only thing that could happen is that the Head of Mischief steals the shield buff from Trunda. That's the only thing that can happen. Otherwise, there's no way the Hydra gets rid of this shield. Another thing that I wanted to say, so this run isn't even perfect. As you can see, my Trunda has 1 turn left, and somehow I, you know, didn't notice it. My concentration fell off, and I just, you know, didn't notice that my Trunda was about to getting devoured. If I would have noticed, I would have tried to suicide her on a reflect damage or whatever. There are, you know, 2 heads that could place reflect damage on them, and that way you can actually suicide her pretty easily and then revive her and just keep going with your run. But here I actually didn't notice it, and she got devoured and I couldn't get her back. So that's like 50 turns that I'm missing here where I could deal additional damage, and maybe I could get out another big hit. Yeah, so I could even push more damage. but I kept it because I didn't want to go over it all over again, right? I'm already 60 minutes into this run. I have to manual it. It's not on auto. Overall, I was pretty satisfied with the damage, with the outcome, and in the end, I was able to get over 2 billion damage on Brutal, and that was actually my personal best so far. And I think as soon as I get a better blessing and maybe better gear as well, I can definitely push Nightmare and try to get 2 billion damage on the highest difficulty. Also, I'm trying to think of other ways to push the damage. I have Intimidating Presence on Duchess, which boosts the attack aura from Trunda. I have her in a 9-piece protection set. I have Gurptuk in a 9-piece protection set, which is also pretty good because he can put up continuous heals with his A1 if your champions are under poison. Then I have Lydia in a 9-piece Feral set and Brimstone on her, so that way she can place, you know, the maximum amount of debuffs to push additional damage. I have Cruelty on my second Yumeko. The other Yumeko that I'm using here is actually built for Arena. I do have a third one, so maybe I could get her in as well with Cruelty or something to push the damage even further, because Yumeko's temporal chains, it doesn't really matter, it doesn't really help at all. And also I was thinking about putting the Yumekos in a 9-piece Feral set, or at least one of them. So with the Hex I would get additional 5% more damage, but I don't know if the Hydra would try to place poisons or whatever on Yumeko and she reflects it with the Hex debuff, if it would count towards the Feral set. So that's something I would want to try out as soon as I can, because that way maybe I can push a little bit more damage. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with the outcome here. That's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed, I hope you learned something. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comment section below. And as always, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Also hit the thumbs up, it really would help me and my channel. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching and see you in the next video.